Hello,
There we
hello.
go. Good evening, everyone.
Well, I've just had a notification that if the sky is clear tonight, we may see the aurora in the next hour.
Oh, nice.
It's not dark enough, obviously, so we'll not see it here.
But in a wee while. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose at the end of the night, we might be seeing flashing lights anyway.
We might.
We've got quite a few whiskies to drink tonight.
Yeah.
Not only with our guest today, but also we're jumping onto another tasting event afterwards. So, yeah, a full-on evening for us. So let us know what's in your glasses. David Muir, straight off the bat with these. Good evening.
Back in action, David. Back in action. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah.
Kind of KO'd for a wee bit. Hope your taste and your smell is back, and you're lapping up those bath soaps as you're listening to the Blether. So he's on the Glenallachie 15. What a dram!
Yeah.
What a dram!
Please don't send us any pictures, David. That's enough.
Is that the Glenallachie 15 or the new White Heather 15 or the Scottish Oak 15? We've got a choice of 15-year-olds now.
You've got a choice of 50s there, yeah.
From Glenallachie.
Rolling out the 15s.
Good evening, Phil. How are you? Let us know what's in your glass, Phil, and the rest of the guys watching. So, yeah, it's been a funny kind of day. I had a couple of Danes in the shop today for a tasting, which was
a couple of Danes.
Danish, yeah, over
were the Great Danes.
Yeah, they were good. They were good. I'm not sure great. I don't know. Didn't get to know them well enough to know if they were Great Danes. But they came in for a wee taste, and they're on a hunting trip in the northeast. So,
oh, good, nice.
They were quite parched.
Whiskey.
Yeah.
Whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a couple for a gin tasting yesterday, which was a surprise 40th for the guy. It was lovely. They had no idea they were going to gin tasting when they left Aberdeen in the morning.
Right.
So, yeah, it's
awesome.
fantastic.
We should have got them a balloon.
Well, yeah, I should have. Absolutely. I missed the trick there, didn't I? I was going to sing happy birthday as well, and I didn't. I mean, I forgot all about it.
You can sing now. You might be watching.
You might be watching. I can't be watching.
Yeah. So guys, as usual, you're not here to listen to me and Russell bleater on. Although you did last week. Hopefully you enjoyed last week's kind of impromptu blether about the Whisky Academy. Tonight we do have a guest. Was originally booked in for a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately, for a number of reasons, we had to cancel. So, thankfully, maybe not thankfully, but we were due to have Greg Schwartz, director of the Water of Life, tonight. But
he's in Disneyland.
He's in Disneyland. Is that what it is?
In Disneyland with his daughter. Yeah, he double booked.
He'd rather go to Disneyland than speak to us.
He'd rather go. He did actually say, I could maybe get a computer signal. I don't know. And I said, for goodness sake, go and enjoy your time with your daughter.
You can just imagine sitting for an hour in one of those queues. It'd be a good thing to do for an hour, wouldn't it? Blether tells us while he's in a queue for one of the rides. That'd be all right. So we're delighted to welcome Jack, one half of the Uncharted team, relatively new. I won't talk too much about the guys. We'll get Jack on and he can tell us all about it, because we'll probably say something wrong. But they are producing. The one thing I can say is they're producing some fantastic whiskey, and really, for us, certainly getting some traction in terms of sales and demand, and people are kind of really taking notice of these guys. So delighted to have Jack on board and add him to the stream, and there he is.
Yes. Hey Jack, how you doing?
Good evening, gents. How are you?
Very well.
Good. Very good. Yeah. Excited again. Another nice evening of chat.
Just poured myself the Take the High Road.
Oh, nice. That's a hard one to start on because it's heavily peated. Just cash strength, no nonsense, heavily peated.
That's all right.
Yeah, jumping in the deep end there. Good man.
I know. I've just thrown it down with jumper as well.
You're supposed to drink it. You're supposed to drink. You've got a drink problem there, Mike. You're not sure how to.
Yeah. I'll just soup the jumper later on. It'll be all right.
I'm on the strawberry fields, the Blue Rattles.
Nice.
which I got for my Christmas, and I'm getting close to the bottom of the bottle. So
that's a good sign.
It's been a very enjoyable journey so far. So
single malt's got a way of evaporating in the bottle, doesn't it? It just kind of it's there and then it kind of goes. You know,
you need to do something about those tops because
that's what it is.
The whiskey is getting out.
Yeah,
absolutely. You need a padlock on them. That's what they need.
First thing first, when I pick up the bottle, it's an outstanding bottle, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I love it.
I've got a full one here.
For the guys who maybe haven't seen the bottle before, certainly something that stands out. Before you even get into the liquid, and well, there's a full one.
Yeah,
is that the new seals you've got on that one? Is it that prevent?
Yeah. Oh well, eagle eyes, well spotted. We've got a new seal on these ones, so we're trying to. Well, two things. One, that we had the watch strap over the top, and it was tremendously awkward for the guys working in the warehouse. So we listened to feedback, take the constructive criticism, and we made it easier for them. And also the on our plastic-free journey, our first heat shrinks were plastic. And these are now called PLA or something like that. Either way, they're compostable. So if you open a bottle of Uncharted Whisky, that seal on the top goes in your compost bin or your food waste or whatever. And we're doing our best. We're on it.
Yeah. It's a big part of life now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Be more green, and I think at every stage of not just whiskey, but production and consumership in general, everyone is looking to be more green, which is fantastic. And I think, initially, I suppose, and we're at that stage where, it's a little bit more expensive, but the more and more people who do it and get on board, the cheaper it becomes for everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. We've you've hit a nail on the head. My hands are covered in paper cuts right now because I've been packing boxes into Flexi Hex, which is like, have you seen it? It's like a new cardboard you can get for dispatching bottles, and it opens like an accordion, like
It's Russell's best friend, that stuff.
Russell, you need a pair of chainmail gloves to do it. It's what you need.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's not plastic. So
it's by paper cuts. Death by paper cuts. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They're doing quite well. That is it HexiFlex or Flexi Hex?
Flexi Hex.
Flexi Hex. Yeah.
They're doing well like us anyway.
Yeah, we started on them. Great for bottles if you don't have a box or anything. They're
Very
fantastic. Which a lot of the distilleries are now going. But if you've got a box or a tube or something, it's not quite as handy.
Absolutely. We've just got 2 tubes here.
There's 3 on screen just now. Yeah. See, when I first poured that, you said heavily peated. I wasn't getting it, but see, just a couple of seconds in the glass, a minute in the glass, and you're really open that up.
Do you know? I'm quite jealous. We don't have any of that left. That was kind of our smallest release that we ever did. So you're drinking You Take the High Road, we called it, because we always had a wee bit of fun with naming our whiskies. So that one was distilled at Loch Lomond Distillery. So obviously we had to call it You Take the High Road. I'll actually that's it. I'll actually give you a secret. Is I've actually got another heavily peated cask of Loch Lomond, and it's funnily enough. Can you guess what I'm going to call it?
The Bonnie
I'll take the low road.
Oh, the low
road. So it's it'll be announced. Well, I've just announced it, but we'll be sending out the communication to everyone next month. So just waiting on the last details of the bottling slot sort of thing.
What was the influence behind? I mean, it's a brilliant concept, the Uncharted and the names behind it, Strawberry Fields, Killer Queen, all this kind of stuff. I think it's fantastic. But what was the influence for that for yourselves?
Just it was Dan and I we're really passionate about whiskey, and we're really passionate about music, and the other thing we're really passionate about is food. Funnily enough, they kind of all go together, don't they? So we were just having a bit of fun with it, and that's one of the things that I wanted with Uncharted is it to be fun and to be engaging and to be interesting. So when we got our first bottle in, I think that's really where it took off for us. Was we got a cask of, as for our first release, was a 16-year-old Orkney, we weren't allowed to use the distillery name, which is, we can talk about that later, but
Yeah.
a frustration. So we're like, well, what are we going to call it? Blah, blah, blah. And, we bottled it 50%, which for your first bottle was quite punchy, and it had loads, bags of flavour, a bit of peat, and it was sweet 16 years old, so we called it Teenage Kicks. And it just flew. Everybody loved it, and we just it's what we wanted to do anyway. So it just kind of once we'd done that, we thought we're just going to keep doing that, and I mean, some people think what we do is a bit cheesy, but I don't really care because I like it, and it's my brand. So right,
but it gives you endless possibilities, doesn't it? It's not like but we're not going to run out of songs that you can name.
No, absolutely.
No.
But from a shop point of view, it's like, I mean, we talk about this all the time. When you're picking up a bottle off the shelf to sell to someone, you want a story to go with that, and this has got a story. So it's a great bottle for selling from a shop point of view, because you're able to kind of engage the person in the story behind. So I love it. I love them for selling as well. I think it's.
And I think a lot of people relate to it because, I mean, I don't know. I've never met a human who didn't like the song Teenage Kicks. Our latest one is Killer Queen. There's very few people on the planet who don't really like that song. So it's the key for us is it has to be kind of genuine. And if like the song that we name it after, whether or not you think it's cheesy, has to have, the whiskey has to match it. So Teenage Kicks, that whiskey was full on. It was really, really, really brutal. Not brutal, but it was like bags of flavour. And to talk again about Killer Queen, I was sitting with a sample on my desk of this, first fill Madeira Octave, and I was like, God, this is the most elegant whiskey we're ever going to have bottled. And a good friend of mine, Chris, was sitting next to me, and I said, Chris, I need a name. I need a song that just oozes elegance, like what is that? But elegance and attitude, because it's cash strength. And he was like, and he just said Killer Queen. I was like, that's it, man. That's it, and everyone's really liked it. So
it works. It's I haven't tried it yet, so but I look forward to
I'm looking forward to getting a wee drop or something.
Well, DHL's on there. It's winging its way. It's on its way.
Good stuff. I mean,
Teenage Kicks a great one to start with as well. I mean, John Peel, the late great John Peel, that was his ultimate favourite song. And I remember they released a kind of a double CD. If kids out there, if you remember CDs, they released a double CD of all his kind of favourite tracks, and Teenage Kicks was track one on the.
I think was it not his alarm in the morning? I think
quite possibly. It was his definite all time. So what a great place for you guys to start off as well.
And long after it was gone, we were getting people from Belfast trying to get it. It was, it's the nature of single cask whiskey. It's here today and it's gone tomorrow. We got 399 bottles, I think. And you're going to get that kind of link as well. There's Dave Muir, one of our great friends. Good customers as well. He's just saying he's the biggest Queen fan, so he's definitely going to have to get himself a bottle. No way.
Because you're just going to do that. I mean, I find myself, I've got the Strawberry Fields bottle, and every time I pick it up and open it, I sing the song.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't help doing it. And it just comes in. So I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, but, I've had to sing 12 songs running about my head now for the last year. So it's
You need to get into the studio and get a new album when you go.
Yeah. And I know in the next release is you take the roll, so I'm going back. I'm going back again.
Yeah,
to run rig.
Because you've had, I mean, probably. You're talking about the song has to match the whiskey and everything. I mean, the smoke on the water was just, and that was even if the song wasn't called "Smoke on the Water," you would still get that theme running through your head as you drank it because it was just that kind of heavy.
It's
legendary kind of flavor.
So I mean, for everyone who doesn't know, the Smoke in the Water we released was a cask strength 23-year-old Lefroy. And if you've ever had the lovely experience of going to Lefroy, its feet are literally in the Atlantic. It's it doesn't get much more perfectly suited, does it? And I mean, the Dram was gutsy. You know, it was complicated, but powerful.
Yeah, I think I first tried it was a sample when you and Dana had the a Facebook Live. I think you were.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
because I think we'd actually popped into the shop to see because we had a sample.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and we'd been staying up at Craigellachie at the Highlander in there with Tatsuya's Whisky Bar, and I think we took the long way down so that we'd come and see you and visit Mark over in Turriff as well, and and we dropped some whiskey in, I think, so you could try it because we were dead excited.
Always welcome.
Oh.
Here's a wee challenge for the guys who are watching. What song would you use to describe one of your whiskies or one of your favourite whiskies? You would pop your comments on, and we'll maybe inspire Jack to his next cask. I feel a little bit like we're on Radio Scotland, and it's the the themes.
What's his name show? That's on about this time of day, isn't
it?
Yeah,
6 to 8. You pick the song, so pick a song to match your favorite Dram.
Favorite Dram. You need to work on your BBC voice then.
No, I might have a face for radio. I don't have a voice for it.
I was just thinking about Dave Muir. So Dave's again back to one of our favourites. So maybe telling too much about Dave, but Dave likes to listen to us while he's in the bath after he's a very hard worker. So he has his bath after work and he puts on the phone. He listens in and he pours himself a dram. So he's singing to "Smoke in the Water" as we speak. Down, deeper and down. Watch yourself, Dave. You don't want you drowning in the bath.
I'm not sure if that's the whiskey going down in the glass. I'm just having a look because I have a song. We were talking about the Beatles. My favourite Beatles song is "Here Comes the Sun," and I was just wondering if we had a dram locally or in the vicinity that I could patch to it, but I don't think I have.
Oh, but I mean, that's you need for something like that. You need it to be like either a good hoggy with bags of tropical fruit or
Summer's Day, an Altmore or something like that.
Yeah, Altmore, Glencadam, something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know I almost had an Altmore than a feeling.
But
even for me, I was like, right, that's too cheesy, man. You can't do that,
I suppose you could. The danger of what you're doing is you could think of a song and then go hunting a cask for the song.
I've got a whole board. I used to have post notes on a mirror in the hall for all the ideas. I need a Keith so I can do Sunshine on Keith. That's my next plan. I can't. Yeah, because I love that song. I mean, if we ever get a Keith cask,
that's my mum's favourite song. That one. So I mean, there's 3 in Keith to choose from. So surely one of them's kicking around.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a proper hip song. We never talk about football and politics and all that kind of stuff in these chats, but I went to as a Ross County, born and bred up in the Highlands. I went down to the League Cup final when Hibs played Ross County, and I thought I can't lose here because if we lose, I'm staying behind to watch the Hibs fans singing "Sunshine and Leith." If we win, I'll be happy. So it's one of those days I was going to be staying behind no matter what happened. It's a brilliant song, and it's lovely to hear so many people singing it as well. Just fantastic.
I just proclaim us just so proudly Scottish, and I remember walking. I was back when I was a backpacker many years ago. I was walking through Brisbane, and it was like 12 o'clock at night, and I was walking through this kind of wee suburb bit, and I could just hear like 100 people singing 500 miles. And a place like coming out this bar on the other side of this field, and I was like proud to be Scottish. You gotta love it.
Funny story about people walking down the street and hearing songs. Katie Tunstall, apparently she was in America or somewhere, and she was just walking down the street and walked past a bar, and there was a tribute band playing one of her songs.
No way.
So in she goes, and says that's one of my songs, and they were like, fuck, away you go. No, it's not. Who are you? They had no idea who she was, but they were actually playing one of our songs.
Do you know one of the best? I guess we're getting a wee bit off topic from whiskey here, but did you see that? I can't forget his name, but the lead singer who sang "Small Town Boy," I think he recently died. Bronski Beat,
Somerville.
He was walking down the street in Berlin, and there was a busker singing "Small Town Boy," which is a brave busker, by the way. And he joins in.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, like what a moment.
Jimmy Somerville, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Quality.
It's good stuff. And I suppose the link between music and whiskey, not just the two of them together, but even separate, it's all about the people you're with and the feeling you've got at time. There's whiskies for certain moods, there's music for certain moods, and everything. It's the two go hand in hand. So I think you've absolutely cracked it.
It's passion, isn't it?
Yeah. And everyone's going to have a different favorite, and you can just open up the conversation. Why is this song better than that song, or this artist better than that artist, or this whiskey better than that? And it's these kind of windless arguments that go round and round in circles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what got you into the business then, Jack? How did it all start off?
Oh, many years ago, I started off. Where did it start? I'd always wanted to work for myself. It didn't really. It's a funny one, but I actually qualified as a marine and freshwater biologist. That was so I've got a scientific background, but just to give you my life story, when I came out of uni, that was like bang slap in the middle of the credit crunch, and there was no work at all. So I just decided to bugger off essentially, and I got on a plane and I went backpacking, and I went to Melbourne, and in Melbourne I met my partner Dana, and that was a good 10 years ago now, and we travelled about and whatnot, and we spent a long time in Margaret River, which is kind of about 3 hours south of Perth on the west coast of Australia, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place, a really successful wine region. And I was already into wine, but I got really immersed in it there, and I learned loads and loads and loads. And I'd always liked whiskey, and I kind of had to share this passion for both of these things. And I came back. I think I left with about 6 hours left on a 2-year visa. Really cut it fine. And we came back, and I wanted to set up my own company. So I took a job for a while working with a couple of places, and eventually started the company to do events. And it started that way because I didn't have any money. so I did. So I started a kind of an events company because I thought, again, going back to the music thing, I thought that a lot of whiskey tastings that I'd been to, were very information focused, which has got its place.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do something that was really fun focused, and just having a great time. So, and drinking nice whiskey and get to chat to your friends and not being overly bombarded with information. So, I had this idea to do a tasting, but quite structured, and that you would get like 5 minutes of chat on a whiskey, and then you'd just be left alone to chat with your friends and drink it. And in the meantime, I would get a musician to play live. So I just remembered, I don't know how familiar you are with Glasgow, which is where I grew up. Well, kind of there. But Gentleman McGinty's in the West End in Ashton Lane. It's a great bar. And so I just remember a fantastic night I'd had in there, and I phoned Gentleman McGinty's and I said, "What's the name of the really tall boy who plays The Day We Caught the Train by Ocean Colour Scene?" And they went, "Oh, that's Big Jamie." I said, "Can I have his number, please?" And and they gave me his number. So I phoned him up. I was like, "Listen, mate, seen you in Genties. I thought you were really cracking. I've got this idea," and essentially I just paid him as if it was a gig, and he would come and he would do, just like, instead of him playing for an hour or whatever he would normally play for, he'd play for 5, 10, 15-minute sessions, like between each dram, and we just had loads and loads of fun, and we got loads of good views, and that grew into gin, and from there I ended up going into business with the guy and opened a shop in Stirling. And kind of COVID came, we did that for a few years, really got to know retail side of things, and dipped our toe in the bottle, in the kind of independent bottling. And when COVID came, it was time for a change for me. I wanted to do something new, and we made the jump. So so Uncharted was founded right in the heart of the first lockdown.
And then your first whiskey was the Orkney, wasn't it? The 16-year-old.
Yeah. So it was
yeah. You can't say what it was, but if I say was it
Oh.
Scapa?
Oh well, I definitely can't tell you it was distilled at Highland Park.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go.
It's one of the best. It's one of the best ones out there, isn't it? You don't want anybody to know what your name is. There's only 2 distilleries in Ireland, and it's not Scapa. You're like, okay,
tough.
Yeah. No, it's a bit of a funny old one, the naming rules and whatnot. But
and you also had another unnamed trilogy. Was it three chapters you had of the rumors?
I've had 2 so far. There's a third coming.
There is a third coming.
Yeah. And then I'll be honest. Sorry.
I was just going to say the rumors was a great title for it, because there is that we don't know what it is.
Well, it works. That's brilliant. Yeah, because everybody wants to guess what it is.
Yeah. So the rule for rumors is it's got to be from Islay. So that already narrows it down to only 10 distilleries, and you know that Ardenhoe's not that old.
It's 15, so that rules out Kilcoman as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think one of them sleeping at the time is a Port. It's obviously not Port Ellen because it would cost stupid money. But but essentially, rumors was about me having a bit of fun with Dana, and we're like, well, let's call it rumors because we're not allowed to call it the distillery, and then we'll spread the rumor, right? And name it after the Fleetwood Mac song. So we had a lot of fun, like we were making puzzles up for everyone. So we I think it's still on the website. If it's not, we'll put it back. But it was like I got a Scrabble board, and we took a picture of the Scrabble board, and I jumbled up all the names of different distilleries, and one of the Isles was missing. And we just put this picture up and let people have a dig about it, and we had fun. We wrote some riddles. I'd never written a riddle before, but we wrote 2 different riddles for the 2 different releases to and I think they're still on YouTube because they were done in a video sort of thing. So it was a good bit of fun to communicate without stretching the rules too far.
And I think for us, it's when it came in, it kind of sat on the shelf for a week or 2. But as soon as that rumor started filtering through,
as soon as the rumor spread,
that was
it. Yeah. Pretty shameless that way.
But it's a good backup to have. I mean, as I said at the start, you're now getting a name. People are looking for your whiskies, and you're saying you're selling yourself. You're selling out of your own stock so quick. But you have that wee backup that you can say, well, here's almost like a second launch, isn't it? This is what it could be.
Do you know that? Yeah, and the other thing is, we maybe don't have it on our website, but we only work with a handful of really cool indie shops, like yourself. So we're really delighted to say we don't have it, but Michael and Russell will sort you out, and I think hopefully you'll see quite a good amount of that coming through. And can I just be a wee bit self-indulgent and just say one more thing that I really loved about particularly our second Rumours release? It was, I'm going to give a hint here because I'm shameless. It was a 30-year-old cask strength Islay that was distilled in the capital of Islay. And it wasn't a cheap bottle, it was on the shelf. I think about $3.50, give or take.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of money to spend on a bottle of whiskey. But if you were buying that from the distillery, you'd be like 1,700 quid.
Yeah, easy
for the same whiskey. Yeah. So for me, I think a lot of the guys who are getting a wee bit carried away with the pricing are taking whiskey out of the hands of normal people. Like the normal person can't afford to spend 1,700 quid on a bottle of 30-year-old. It just, but
maybe you need to give away a set of keys to a British sports car.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or print a picture of one on the side of it.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy. But the thing is, 350 quid for a bottle is a lot of money for most people. But on your birthday, you can still go and buy a dram in a bar, or you can come in to see you guys, and and you can stretch to it. It's still achievable for the normal person, which is whiskey's made for drinking. It's not an expensive ornament. It's made for drinking.
It's not even an ornament anymore. It's a digital image.
Yeah, well
yes, that's right.
Couldn't believe that. But we'll say no more about that distillery because
I mean, I do. You got to support Islay all the time. The same way that you support independent whiskey and all of its forms. But I do think that some of the pricing's getting a little bit silly on some of the on a handful of distilleries.
Yeah.
Talking about drinking whiskey, one of the things we often ask people, and we've always been asked the question ourselves, is getting into whiskey. What was your first kind of experiences of drinking whiskey? You said you were always a bit of a fan, but can you remember?
Oh, like clear as day. There was two. So the first, I'll tell you. So the first time I really loved whiskey, I was a student. I was 18 years old. I was doing the standard student thing, £1 vodka lemonades when you're out, and pints of lager, and just what students do. And the same boy that came up with this name, Killer Queen, Chris, him and I were walking the West Highland Way, and we walked from Mulgai to Balmaha, which is about 20 miles. It's the first day of the West Highland Way, and we walked 14 miles. We got to Dram, and I was like, this is a doddle. This is an absolute scooch. What's everyone complaining about? And I remember putting boots off, my feet up, and I had my sandwiches, and I was like, right, 7 more miles, we're in 6 more miles, we're in Balmaha, right over the Connick, no bother, on we go. And it was the worst 6 miles of my life. It was just like, it just blistered up, and I was just being so dirty on life. I was like, oh God, I hate this. And I remember walking down, I was like, because we're staying in the Oak Tree in Balmaha, it's a famous pub there, a good whiskey bar. And I was like, I can't go in there and drink pints, lager, and vodka. I'm on the West Island Way, I need to drink whiskey tonight, and
Scottish tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyway, about a month after that, my pal Ali came back from Islay, and he bought me a bottle of Bruichladdich Rocks.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, if you remember that, it was and I was like, that smells like smoky bacon. That was my first real whiskey that made me go, wow, I can really get into this. And I think I spun that out over about a year or 18 months or something. I was really, really stingy with it because I loved it. But yeah. So yeah,
at least that's a good experience.
yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people's first experiences of whiskey are stealing it when they're
something
their dad's cabinet when they're 16 or something.
Off to the school disco. Mixing it with rum and gin and God knows what all else.
No, not me.
The park bench for me. The park bench for the bottle of I can't remember what it was, but it was an Islay.
No way.
But the first whiskey I really enjoyed was Dalwhinnie. That was the Scotch that got me into properly drinking whiskey. I used to drink Irish whiskey, Jameson's and ice, because we always ended up in the Irish bar in Aberdeen last thing at night, and we thought, well, we can't drink anything but Jameson's and Guinness. So it was Jameson's Guinness all the way. But I didn't like the taste of the whiskey, so it was always loaded with ice, and it was pretty much just necked, and then we'd drink the Guinness. And I got a job in a hotel in Inverurie, just in our hometown, and started to work with bringing in whiskies for a wee bar, kind of a pre-drink bar, was the kind of idea. So we got into Dalwhinnie, we got into the Diageo classic malts kind of range, and I had a wee taste of the Dalwhinnie, and I was just like, oh, it's like, this I've been missing a trick for so long.
Same as the Dalwhinnie, quite a leap.
Yeah, and just from there, that's where it kind of really took hold.
I mean, I think those classic malts of Scotland that Diageo produce are, they're very newcomer friendly. And I think they're a great entry point for pretty much all of us. I'm sure,
Kinchies and whatnot. But we've got a question from Dave. Actually, he's just asking where you're based. We haven't really talked about the company itself, apart from setting up. So
yeah, I'm in a wee place called Fintry, which is kind of if you take it's right in the Campsie Fells. So we're about 7 miles from Glengoyne, about 9 miles from Deanston, and we're kind of slap bang in the middle. If you drew a line between Glasgow and Stirling, we're right in the middle there. So Glengoyne's our local.
There's a place called Fintry in Aberdeenshire as well, which is also a little place.
Yeah, which is it's kind of like east of the road going between Turriff and Banff, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
I remember
and
seeing
there's
it.
Hatton as well.
Well,
It's
yeah,
closer to Inverurie.
that's right. Yeah. I
You
used
see a lot
to.
of these wee towns that are the same name from different areas of Scotland.
Yeah.
It must mean something. Must mean something dead common, like forestry or foresters, or you know.
Well, I think the Fintry that I know I think it just meant cows on the football pitch because I played a couple of amateur games away there, and the cows always came onto the pitch halfway through the game. I was in goals. I spent half the game chasing cows off the pitch.
No, we've got sheep in the rugby field here. That's and that's not a joke. Like,
No, I believe you. I totally believe you.
Yeah. That's a funny place.
There maybe is a link. Farm animals on the field or something like that. It's Scotch for Fintry.
Just talking about the whole Irish thing, the Irish bars. It's one of these things that was speaking to somebody else about this recently, that we in Scotland we somehow celebrate St. Patrick's Day and all things Irish more than we do all things Scottish. And I often wonder if it's because St. Andrew's Day is so close to Christmas that we kind of just tend to skip it by.
Mm-hmm.
But with the kind of fun that you guys are doing and this kind of thing, St. Andrew's Day kind of thing, is that something that might kind of sneak into?
Yeah, it'd be nice. I think you're right that St. Andrew's Day does go really unnoticed a lot of the time. I think we probably make up for it in Burns Night.
Yes, indeed.
To be fair. And if like again, going back to student days, I celebrated Paddy's Day then, but now I'm a bit older. I'd much rather have haggis, neeps, and tatties than 6 pints of Guinness.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I think it would be nice to do something a wee bit more for St. Andrew's Day. But it's just, if people show an interest, people want us to do something, then we'll be there with bells on. Absolutely.
You could do with this whiskey lineup. Just an event popped into my head there, like a karaoke tasting.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful!
I like that. I've managed to get all the 7-inch singles for all the releases. Yeah, Killer Queen arrived today. We got it on eBay. But I've got them all. We've got Rumours, the album. I've got I've got This Charming Man. That was a hard one. Got Smoke in the Water as well. Teenage Kicks is one I had to pay the most for. It was 20 quid.
You're far too young to have been around when they were actually released, but I was actually I'm old enough to have been listening to the charts on the radio when these
when they came out.
Killer Queen was one of my favourites because I think it was a Christmas. Was it a Christmas number one? I can't remember.
No way.
But it was one of these ones I remember. Certainly, maybe it wasn't a Christmas number one, but every Christmas you used to get Top of the Pops greatest kind of of the year, Christmas Day. And I remember hearing that one. It was like, and Freddie Mercury was there, and they were all dressed up in their glam rock kind of tinsely kind of colours for Christmas. And
it's nice.
Just a brilliant song, Killer Queen. Fantastic song.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
We've got Dave again has just been asking about the. Can you tell us about the cash share?
Oh yeah, the cash share is a wee bit of fun. So essentially, this is like it's almost like a wee syndicate. So we buy a cask, and you can buy a wee share in the cask. The truth is, a lot of whiskey lovers would love to own their own cask of whiskey, but again, just living in the real world with a couple of kids and mortgage and a car, the idea of spending a couple of grand on a cask and then the duty and then having 300 bottles sitting in your garage is just not necessarily the best decision for a lot of guys. So the cash share is like a really super duper affordable way of like you get a share of a cask, and you can order a sample of it every year and see it mature over the years. And then we're doing a lot of cool different finishes with them. So we've got one in the First Fill Oloroso, we've got a port cask, we've got two in First Fill Oloroso actually, and they're all named after rock stars as well. So you can, a good bit of fun. And at the end of the day, you get 4 bottles duty paid delivered, and not 300 bottles. So yeah, it's quite cool. So we've got 2 Speyside casks named Debbie and Stevie after Debbie Harry and Stevie Nicks. We've got 2 Orkney casks named Jake and Elwood.
Blues Brothers.
Yeah. This was give it away. We've got 2 other Speyside casks called Tam and Winston. From there. Yeah. So we got a Bowie, we had a Niggy. So it's been a lot of fun.
Sorry, I just had to kind of switch off a little second because we'd lost the stream on our Facebook.
Yeah.
But we're back on. We're back on.
Good.
It's all good. So apologies to anyone who we ducked out on. We are live on a couple of channels. So we are on our YouTube, we are on our own Facebook, and we've also got our Highland Whisky Academy Facebook page.
Nice.
We're streaming on. So guys, if you were, if that ever happens again, just jump onto one of our channels and we'll keep going. So apologies for that, but
Dave just reminded me of my age. 1974 was when Killer Queen was in the chart. So
really,
I was 8 years old then. So yeah,
it's got to be in a good song for it to stick in your head that long.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a few from back then that kind of do stick in your head, absolutely. And Queen were phenomenal then. And then the Night at the Opera album, which was so bizarre. You've seen the film Bohemian Rhapsody, I'm sure.
Yeah.
When they went along to say we want Bohemian Rhapsody to be a single, and the the agent was like, "What? It's like an hour long."
Yeah. And it's still getting voted the best British tune ever written. You know,
and almost everybody in the country can sing it word for word. You know.
Yeah. But it wasn't an immediate hit, was it? It kind of was it.
It was a number 1 for a long time. I think it probably was actually.
Was it? And then it was number 1 twice, wasn't it? And then
it was number for a long, long time. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was the song that kept Fairy Tale of New York from going to Christmas number 1. I'm pretty sure.
Well, second time round.
The second time round, yeah.
Okay.
You don't mind losing out number 1 to something like that.
Yeah.
You don't. Do you know what really annoys me is when Vienna never hit number 1 because of that "Shut Up in Your Face." Do you know?
Yes, not the song Vienna.
Do you know that one? Do you know that one?
Yeah. What's the matter for you? Hey.
Imagine writing Vienna, Ultravox, and not hitting number 1 because of "Shut Up in Your Face." You would be, be sick, wouldn't you? But it was entertainment.
Yes,
certainly is. Yeah. Well, I'm going to pour a Strawberry Fields. I'm pretty sure the Beatles never had issues with "Shut Up Your Face."
They must have a story like that, though. There must be somewhere that the Beatles once kept off number 1 by someone.
Cliff Richard, probably.
Yeah. Do you know what? Someone told me a story.
Cliff Richard was good back in the day. Cliff Richard was good.
You must have seen his debut as well, did you?
Not quite. Not quite. There's a great Cliff Richard in the country. And the country's a great song. That's a fantastic song. Cliff Richard. So yeah. Joe Dolce, there we go. That's who he was. Shut up with your face, Dave. Yeah. Absolutely right. Appalling.
My 2 favourite artists ever. Again, this guy Chris, I keep telling you about. He keeps coming up, but he was telling me a story. He said my 2 favourite artists ever are Paul Simon and Stevie Wonder, and apparently Paul Simon was awarded some award for the best album of the year for Graceland. And when he stood up to take the award, he said, first of all, I'd like to thank Stevie Wonder for not releasing an album this year. And the next year, Stevie won it for Songs in the Key of Life, which is, brilliant.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Paul Simon as well. There's probably too many to mention, but Bruce, the boss, has got to be up there for me as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Born to Run in the River. Class.
Absolutely. So there's a challenge for you. Find a whiskey for a Bruce Springsteen song.
A Brucey Boy song.
You'll have to get a bourbon born in the USA.
Born in the USA. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure we could get something with loads of kick to it and call it Thunder Road.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like even Jura. Like Jura's only got one road. That could be it.
That could be it.
Yeah. I don't know. I have to think about that.
The Long and Winding Road would be another one. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that would have to be the second independent bottle release of Arasi. That'd be
Callum's
Road.
Yeah.
The Long and Winding Road. Yeah.
What's the other one? There's Ardmarkin. That's right in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, that would be we're on the road to nowhere.
Road to nowhere, yeah. I almost released that. You know, I had a cask of Brave Isle, and it was because Brave Isle was like really, really high up, and it's got a road built just for it. So it was going to be the road to nowhere, or it was going to be higher ground. But but it was Stevie Wonder.
Yeah,
But,
Steve Winwood, wasn't it? Was Steve Winwood?
Stevie Wonder wrote Higher Ground, or at least the one I know. But maybe you know it. But yeah, I'm sure Steve Winwood must have had a song with the same title. But but the cask wasn't up to scratch. You know, it was a real shame. But we had to let it go. Wasn't
so, are you sort of finding in terms of cask? I mean, one of the things that surprised me, speaking to some of the indie guys, was the situation where you're having to, through some brokers, you're having to actually pick casks, not really knowing what the spirit's like inside, almost blind. Is that something you're experiencing?
Yeah, I mean that's not uncommon at all.
Yeah.
I mean it's different, but like so, for example, if you're buying from Diageo, like. There's just no chance. Like there's just no chance. You know, like it's you order it, you pay for it, and 6 months later your cask will show up, and you've. Yeah. But the thing is, at that point, you know, Diageo at the moment aren't releasing any particularly fantastic wood to us. You know, so everything we're getting is kind of in reefer wood, and we've got to do something with it to make it interesting. So you know we're like there's nothing wrong with the spirit, but it's not exciting enough to be, you know, happy for me to put our name on it. So we have to do something. So we need to go and invest in like a really cool quarter cask or an octave, or you know, and do something to make it to elevate it essentially. And so you can criticize them for saying, oh well, you know, or you've not given us a sample of that cask. But to be honest, I don't need a sample to know that a fourth fill hogshead isn't going to cut it for me. You know, so
but you know enough maybe about the distillery spirit or the spirit style.
Oh, absolutely.
Underneath that, if you're going to be able to do something with it. I mean, without giving too much kind of business kind of thing away, does that reflect in the price? I mean, are you able to get them a bit cheaper, or are they still charging top dollar for stuff like that?
No, if you can buy direct from Diageo, it's a bit cheaper.
It's a bit cheaper.
Sure, and that should be reflected on. But we're finding you know, prices are just getting exponential right now, and it's a bit of a struggle for everyone, for us to get something on the shelf and give all of our partners a decent kick of the ball.
A little earlier on is that people aren't buying now for drinking; they're buying for what the value is going to be in 10 years' time or whatever, and that's a big issue. I think that a lot of people are facing. Guys like yourself, or an independent bottler, are competing to buy casks for bottling. You're competing against guys who are willing to pay a wee bit extra because they want to sit on it. And
pension pot. Most people have got in their pension pot because they've been told by investors that you're going to make so much money. And
the whole investment thing is very kind of. It's not something I'm keen to get involved in.
No.
You know, you know, there's a lot of guys investing in whiskey, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that if they're, you know, buying at fair price and they're selling at a fair price, and everyone's getting a kick of the ball and everyone's being looked after and nobody's up to anything, and that's fine. But you know, just with all these, because I'm quite interested in whiskey, as you can imagine, when I go on social media, it's just like I'm just being bombarded by advertisements of investing, promised returns. You'll make so much money, and I'm like, nah, like you all these companies that are selling all these things are far too young to actually ever have given anyone 10 years of maturation and sold it and paid anyone their return.
Yeah.
So,
you hear some horror stories about some of these guys will sell you a cask that they don't even have. They'll get a cask list and they'll sell you, they'll give that to a customer. You say, I want that cask. Say it's I've got an Ardmore here. Say it's an Ardmore. And they'll take your money and then they'll go back to the broker, because a lot of these guys are second-hand brokers, third-hand brokers, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And that's gone. Oh well, give me another cask and we'll or they just keep the money and say you've got a cask.
Absolutely.
I mean that's
2 or 3 times.
That's just crookery at that point. But
absolutely.
I once had a guy bought a cask off of me, and it was I won't go into the details, but I think I sold it for £1,700, and he said, I feel sick, Jack. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I bought one for £5,000 last month. He said, so same distillery, same year, same ABV, and he'd paid 3 times the amount, and it was
crazy.
And you're like, missed that second.
No, but
absolutely not. No. See, no.
We get a lot of people in the shop asking about investment and stuff and asking for kind of ideas. And the only thing I don't know enough about it to give any particular advice. The only thing I ever say to people is, don't buy anything from anybody that's trying to sell you something. If you really want something, go and look for it and go and approach people, but don't. If there's anybody trying to sell you, don't buy it.
Yeah, I mean,
because these are the sharks. These are the guys that are.
And there's a load of hidden costs as well that people don't tell you about.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazed. It's not something I like. It's amazing the legalities of ownership and being registered with HMRC as a proper owner and getting a warehouse to work with you, and big warehouses are not interested in dealing with one guy with one cask or one guy with 2 casks. They want to deal with companies who are it's a lot less admin for a lot more turnover for them. So it's
Ian's got a crack at
I like Ian's comment.
For the "It Won't Get Fooled Again" would be the song for. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's and I certainly hope not. But yeah,
it's here. We're going to live with it, I suppose. But as long as guys like you are putting out phenomenal whiskey,
but we try. But with these kind of secondary cask brokers, they're driving the price up of like old Islays and nice Bruichladdich, Macallan, Springbank obviously being the key examples. Like the prices of them are just ridiculous now, and that's reflected across the whole board from when it's in the cask to when it's in the bottle, and it's kind of taken out of the hands of the average guy who just wants to drink some Springbank, and treat himself to an old bottle on his birthday.
I think Springbank have inadvertently found himself in this position because because of the COVID, their production's been lowered and they can't get the same kind of batch size out. Yeah. And people can't afford Macallan, so they're looking for something else. And these local barleys and the cask strengths and things have become that kind of affordable. What I loved about Springbank and Lafroig as well is another one that kind of fell into this category. Is you could pick them up relatively cheap on auction. Maybe a £5 or a £10 over RRP, but now, the last kind of year, it's just gone nuts. Your local barley and things, and I don't think that I feel for Springbank because they haven't gone out and said we're the new Macallan or we're this big investment. They've kind of found themselves in this position where they're like, how can we get whiskey to the drinkers quicker?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a tough one, isn't it? Because if somebody wants it, someone else will pay for it. Do you know what I mean? So it's Another thing, Springbank, I don't know, 20 years ago or whatever, they stopped selling private casks to private individuals.
Yeah.
So what now exists is almost a grandpa right in that respect, and you can't really get that You can't get. I couldn't get one now.
It must be near 20 years because they told me that in 2017 when I was at the distillery. They said it was about 15 years they'd stopped it then, so it must be about 20 years now. The only guys who get is Canon heads, and I think they get 1 or maybe 2 casks a year they get to select, and that's it.
Lucky them.
I know. Get in with them.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's the guys like yourself and companies like yourself and indie bottlers like yourself are the ones people always say, "Oh, we're not getting Springbank, we can't get this and next." There's lots and lots of good spirit out there. There's lots of good drinking whiskey out there. And for me, it's kind of coming to you guys, doing all the kind of different stuff that's where the drinking is at. And I mean, I've not even bothered trying to chase any unicorn drams. I never have, because what an absolute waste of time. And not only that, all you're doing is going to end up beating yourself up for not getting it. So you're going to make yourself miserable. It's almost like the gamblers thing. You're chasing a win, So it becomes a useless and stupid game to play. There's thousands of good bottles of whiskey out there sitting in every whiskey shop shelf.
So absolutely. We're going to ask you the impossible question, Jack. You walk into a bar and there's no Uncharted whiskies on the shelf. You don't turn around and
walk out again.
What do you look for? What's our kind of go-to dram for you?
Oh, my favourite is it's quite easy. This isn't an impossible question for me at all. Bruichladdich, Bunnahabhain, Glendronach were always kind of my favourites. I've always loved Bruichladdich. I've always loved Bunna and always liked it. Bunna kept it affordable for everyone. And I really liked particularly Billy Walker's days at Glendronach, because he's a real cask man. And I just always could never see past that. Oh God, I'm going to mention the 15-year-old Glendronach, but it's every time it came up, I bought one to keep, and every time I cracked it open, and for me that's what it was. They got a lot of criticism after they got taken over by Brown-Forman for moving to chill filtering and 43%, which I've not had any real experience of comparing the two against each other, but I always did love it. I always loved that Bruichladdich always do high ABV, and let you put your own water in. And increasingly, I'm liking all the stuff that I get along really well with the guys at Lady of the Glen. So I don't know if you guys stalk them, but
Great.
There's only 4 of them there. Paul, Gregor.
When I set it up today, I found a wee Lady of the Glen pin badge.
Oh, no way! Stick it on. Fly the flag for them.
We love Gregor and Paul. Absolutely brilliant. Great to see him in the shop. Great guys. And fantastic, absolutely fantastic whiskies.
We had a couple of guys, the last guys in the shop today. They were at Balblair this morning, and they drove. They're going down to Oban. Sorry?
The Danes?
No.
All right, okay.
Yeah. They were at Balblair this morning. They came into the shop, and then they were going to Oban. They travelled from Balblair. They took a detour to Inverurie because they knew that we stocked Lady of the Glen. Yeah, they came in, bought 2 Ladies of the Glen, and back to Oban. It's like, how big a detour is that?
That is a pretty big detour.
That's fantastic.
That's the kind of the pool that the Gregor and Paul are taking in.
Yeah, and there's 2 other lads that work there, Alex and Gavin. They work behind the scenes. They they probably don't get the glory that Gavin and Gregor and Paul get, but they're nice lads as well.
I've not met them.
And they're real music heads actually as well.
Right.
They're really into their tunes. So I think they spend most of their time arguing about what's going on the radio, but that's all right, isn't it? Nice
argument to have.
Have you tried any of Billy's stuff from Glenallachie then, if you're a huge fan of Glendronach?
Absolutely. I really like Glenallachie. I was lucky enough to meet Billy at Glenallachie a few years back because we had some casks there. I really that's a nice guy. I hope that you're talking about me there, David.
I think certainly not talking about us.
I like you too, David. Thank you. What am I saying? What was the question?
Billy,
I've
you're going
forgotten.
to be meeting Billy in the
Yeah.
up at Glenalky.
Oh yeah, I was lucky enough to meet him. He was absolutely
Yeah.
zonked because he'd driven up from Cumbernauld to Glenalky
Yeah.
that morning, and he was driving back the same day. The madman. What a work ethic on him. But yeah, and I was lucky enough to get 20 minutes just to pick his brain and about how he'd done it and whatnot, and hopefully learned a couple of lessons. But yeah, I really like Glenalky. I find Glenalky to actually be a really and this, I'm not meaning this in a negative way, but I find the spirit itself to be quite a delicate blank canvas for the kind of cask finishing and strong cask maturation that
I think that's
that
why
Billy
it
Walker
suits Billy.
suits for.
Yeah, it suits him down to tea, doesn't it? He likes to manipulate using the cask.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think his cask budget must blow almost every other Spacesides out the water because it's.
I think the accountants have regularly got their heads in the hands up there. I think that's.
It is.
Well,
we have a great. It's a story we hear quite often because we're up at Glenalky with our tours quite often. Is Billy will come in one day and he says, "Well, I've just spent $5 million on some casks," and everyone's just like, "Not again!"
Oh my god, lads! One day I'll say that sentence and I'll mean it. Right, give me another 20 years of working hard at it. Today I spent $5 million in casks. Jesus, would that we could.
Yeah.
I think we went a tour with Richard not long ago, and he says that he's pretty confident. I'm not sure if he's factually got it, but pretty confident that for the size of the distillery, that they are spending more on casks than anyone else in Scotland just now.
You've got to imagine they have. I mean, they've got so many warehouses there, and there's casks lying about all over the place.
It's a phenomenal site, and their actual production, as I recall, is only about 20% of what they could potentially do. But because they're keeping it all to themselves, which I can totally understand, as much as it's a pain for us indie guys who'd love to do something with it. But he's like, no, it's my distillery, and if you want Glenalky,
you had a Glenalky, though, didn't you? I think that's all in the picture behind us. The 13-year-old.
God, yeah. Right, so this was it was so interesting, and I mean, we're really lucky not only just to get that cask, but also to learn the story behind it because it's got a story. That cask. So essentially, if you don't mind, I'll tell the story for the guys who tuned in. But our second release was called This Charming Dram, which some people thought was the cheesiest one we ever did. It was named after this charming man, and we did that because it was a Glenalky that was matured its entire life in first fill Oloroso sherry. So it was one sherry butt. Its natural cask strength at 13 years old was 64.7%, which is mental. And I mean, so we were just like, wait, what is going on here? And so anyway, you look at the history. 2007, it was distilled, middle of the credit crunch. Whiskey industry was taking a kicking. It was really not doing well, and a lot of places were kind of mothballing, shutting their doors, and the guys who were producing were just producing for blending. They were refilling hoggies, refilling barrels. They weren't spending any money on woods because nobody was buying bottles of whiskey or at least single malt. So everyone was in a real pickle, and at the time Glenalky was owned by Chivas. And it was just producing huge volumes to feed the blends, and that's fair enough because that's Scotland, the Scottish whisky industry's bread and butter. But a lot of the big boys, Chivas, Diageo, White, whatever it is, they would all sell spirit to each other to ensure that there was a consistency of product and a consistency for the blends, essentially. And we reckon that our cask was sold in bulk to Edrington, who own Macallan and Highland Park, and they filled it into first fill sherry because at that time in 2007 they were the only ones spending money on wood. So it was sold. So every Glenalky you get from that era, unless it's come through Edrington's hands, has been a finish. So it's been matured in hoggies or barrels, and then moved into sherry somewhere down the line, and that's what Glenalky, as it stands, is really good at. strong, rich, amazing finishes on whiskey. But for us to get something that was every single day of its life in first fill sherry, it was really, really rare. And we were able to get it on the shelf at an affordable price. You know, it was for us. It was amazing. It was really tough because it was our second release and there was 800 bottles. And it's just me and Dana, so we're like, what are we going to do with 800 bottles? But yeah, no, it was that was amazing, really good. And we've still got guys asking for it, but unfortunately, it's all gone.
But that's the best thing. That's the best thing about an indie bottler is that. I mean, when I came into, so the whiskey's new for me. I've only been involved in the last 3 years. I was in the health service before, and this is me retired and second job. So I remember coming into the shop and looking at all the distilleries and thinking, right, I've got to get my head around all these different distilleries. And I was like, wait a minute, what's all these different names? What's all that? Well, God, that's an independent bottler. Oh, right, okay, Jesus. But and I thought that one of the first bottles I got was in a Delphi bottle, lovely linkweed, that I bought from the shop. When you could buy a Delphi, I bought one off the shelf, and because these days we don't buy them because we just don't get a chance. They go straight to customers. But that was when staff members were able to buy in a Delphi. I remember that time. Okay. But anyway, it was fantastic. I thought, oh, great, I'll go and get another one. And of course, Mike's like, no, they're all gone. I thought, oh, we'll get one somewhere else. Like, none anywhere. I was like, what's going on here? There was only 250 bottles. All right. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. But that's the great thing about indie bottles is that once they're gone, they're gone. And I think the beauty of them is you've got that absolute wonderful memory and you've just got to wait for the next kind of thing. And I think that's fantastic about it. There's something nice about being able to go and buy a 15-year-old Glenlivet time after time, but there's something special about having a special independent bottling. And if you're just lucky enough to get a hold of a second one somewhere down the road.
I think there is that as well. There's almost that bragging rights as well when you, especially in whiskey circles, people, oh, I tried this Ben Nevis 5-year-old, get a Delphi again. And, oh, did you get one? I tried to get one. And And then if you've still got some left, it's quite an easy icebreaker. Say, well, I'll pour you a dram and I'll send it out to you. And, that's when you kind of realise how open and welcoming and
the industry is.
And not just the industry, but the people, the customers who support it as well. We've had people send up samples to the shop saying, "Oh, go and give this to Russell."
That's really nice, isn't it?
That's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
And one day we'll have time to drink them. But
Do you know one of the best things I'd ever seen done? There was a guy called Gordon, really nice guy. And he said they had Tupperware parties, they called it. But all these drams, you always get stacked up in your cupboard because people share drams here, there, and there. Like, no, we're having a Tupperware night, and everyone would bring a Tupperware of their drams, and you just clear the cupboard out. And I just thought, what a nice night, what a nice way of doing it.
We spoke about that. Was it 2 weeks ago with Red Whiskey Girl? And
yes, that's right.
We spoke about that because we do, and not just from customers or whatever, but guys like yourself. And don't get me wrong, I've just poured myself the Rumours. And with the amount of samples we have to try and get to.
The 15 or the 30?
The 15, chapter 1. There was no
point.
It's a terrible cough.
I think we got a bit of static through there, a little bit of internet connection issues. But and with the greatest respect, there's no point in me spending a lot of time doing a review or a blog or anything on this because by the time I'd done that, it was sold anyway. It's like, So we have to kind of prioritize what we think either might need a push or introduce or something like that. Of course, so that's the only reason why we have. I've got the sample of the Rumours left, which is
it's more than I've got. I don't have any left.
It's beautiful. I've been smelling it for longer than I've been drinking it. It's just.
As I recall, I think it smells like a warehouse. It smells like a Dunnage warehouse. It doesn't. It's got that real.
It's not smoky. It's that kind of not quite medicinal. It just kind of sits in between the medicinal TCP and smoke. But that earthy, dirty, dusty, polish kind of leather maybe. What a dram. Really nice, and this one was. What was this one about? £200 mark?
No. No, 125, I think.
Oh, it was the
30-year-old Isla was 50, but that was just over 100. That 15, which Again, it's not a cheap bottle of whiskey, but it's not unaffordable. Which is the name of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, have you tried? I'm really looking forward to you trying this. I'm sorry you guys didn't get the samples in time. The guy from DHL was really harassed. He was
It would have
busy.
been horrible for Russell because Russell was in the shop today. So if it arrived today, I would have had the sample and he wouldn't. And
I was in yesterday and Mike said the samples arrived and I'm looking out the door all day waiting for the postage. He didn't.
Yeah, it's a beautiful whiskey. So, but you have a bit. I think there was enough there that you guys can try it, and maybe if there's a customer pops in to try it, there'll be a bit for them too, hopefully. So
awesome. It's good to get it in front of customers.
Absolutely.
Talking of which, we'll have to get you back up.
Oh, I look forward to it.
My show in the shop.
Well, I'll come in and see you because I'm coming up to Spirit Speyside, and I'll be sampling in the Dufftown Whisky Fair in the hall there on the Saturday, Sunday. So I'll maybe come and see you on the way back down on the Monday. If there's any customers in around the time who want to try something, then come pick our brains and we'll let you try it.
Absolutely, that sounds good.
We can let people know you're on the way down and do a flash mob,
flash tasting. Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah. Why not? Then
it's a Monday
upstairs as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
Everyone needs a perk up on a Monday, don't they?
Absolutely. God, yeah.
I think so. We had a couple who will remain nameless came into the shop on Monday for a tasting, and they were choosing their wedding quaich dram and favourites. And they brought a friend along for he was quite a bit more into his whiskey, shall we say, than maybe they were. Saying that she was a visitor and worked in a visitor centre in one of the island distilleries. So she knew a bit. She knew what she liked, and she knew kind of a little bit about what she was talking about. And so we gave them 5 drams. And the friend who came along was absolutely blue ticked by the end of it.
No way.
And the couple were like, "Okay." How was he? Turns out he was in the pub for about a few hours before he came out.
No way.
And it was good fun. And so we poured it, and they had a couple of drams from the bar as well.
Nice.
But it was good. So that was a Monday. I was like, this is great. Yeah. I really wish Tony took me to a whiskey tasting room on a Monday afternoon to have a dram.
Yeah.
She would never do
it's all right to me. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. But they got the dram. Well, they went away with 2.
What did they go for in the end?
So she was a Talisker girl. She liked her kind of slightly smokies, and but we went through a range, and they preferred the last 2, which was the Kubochen
nice.
Kind of classic rate, not one of the creations,
and
the organic Benromach were the 2.
Oh, I think that's the most underrated whiskey.
It's phenomenal. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. And way back when it first came out, it's been consistently good right the way through.
Yeah. And they did what was it? They did a 100% 100 proof one as well. That was just really good. It was
I never tried the 100 proof organic.
That's the one so the 100 proof was the one I tried. I bought a bottle of last year. So it must be, is it batch 5 now?
Don't know.
Batch 4 I had. It was fantastic. The one I really want to try is the Cara Gold, which is one of their newer releases.
They did a Sassicaia cask.
Yeah, it was outstanding.
Yeah.
Really. I'm a big fan of Benromach, and
me too.
It just sits under the radar quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And even selling in the shop, it's not really one when people come in looking for something, it's not one that jumps out for us. And I think that because of that kind of wee peaty note in there, always wary of introducing people to it, because if they're buying, a lot of the guys in the shop are buying for gifts or for somebody else. And if they don't know specifically what they're looking for, we tend to avoid peat.
You don't have to tell me that. I did a tasting for a bunch of Speysiders in the Highlander and Craig Elkie, and I tried to give them 3 Islas. Jesus, that was Can you imagine trying to sell space or I gave Speysiders you take the high road, heavily peated Loch Lomond, 30-year-old Isla, and 23-year-old Lafroig. and they were all just like, I thought this is a stellar lineup. They're all going to love it. This doesn't get better than this. And they were all like that. Oh, it's a bit peaty, isn't it? I was like, yeah.
They're all thinking you're Satan.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesus, you live and learn, don't you? Don't feed Speyside just peaty whiskey. So I think, particularly Ben Rome, being a Speyside and using peat, it's.
I've always been a bit worried. We had a customer, and I've known him for years, and he was in for his dad's birthday present, and this was maybe 2 years into us opening, and he really likes Speyside. Just any Speyside will be great. And this is when kind of Ben Romick was branded as the classic Speyside. In the gold kind of foil.
This is Speyside in the bottle.
Yeah. So I was like, well, he picked it up and goes, what about this? He goes, it's classic Speyside. But it's kind of harking back to the kind of wee bit of smoke and that. He's like, well, he likes Speyside, so he bought this, and then seen him a couple of days later, and he goes, why did you sell me that? He hates peat. He's like, you never. Is that of all the Speyside whiskies you gave me a peated one. So that's always just resonating in my head. Is that just, if you don't know, avoid the peat.
Yeah, well, yeah, particularly with Speysiders, they're like. I always think that if I'm ever talking to the guys, they're from Macmira or Paul John, the Indian whiskey or something like that. I always think they've got a tough job, because I always think that the Scots are complete whiskey racists. They like to drink Scotch. They don't want to try. They might try it, but they don't want to buy it. It's particularly as a gift, and you can totally get that, and that's fine. Yeah. But I think Speysiders particularly are like, they're not even just Scotch. They want to drink Speyside whiskey, and it's fair enough. You like what you like, don't you? So,
but so much peat in Speyside now as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your Ben Riix and
Ben Rinnis, Dalyuan's got a wee hint of peat in there as well.
Yeah.
So plenty peat going about there.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. You mentioned earlier about you were at Strathmill and it had the right of way, so you could walk right through it. Last time I was up in Craigellachie, we stayed down the road that Dalyuan's on, and the road goes right through the middle of the distillery. You have to. I was amazed by that.
Just way up beside the warehouses. But there used to be a railway siding up to Dalyuan as well. Because I think the trains actually there was two trains, Dalyuan number 1, and it was actually called Dalyuan number 1, and I think it's actually housed at Aberfeldy for some reason.
Sorry, what was that?
So the train, the Dalyuan train that used to shunt along, there used to be a siding that would go specifically to the Dalyuan distillery. And the actual steam train is housed, I believe, in Aberfeldy, and a museum in Aberfeldy. I don't know if it's anything to do with the distillery down there, or
I don't know.
It's called Dalyuan number 1. The train's called Dalyuan number 1.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it?
But yeah, so there's a siding for Strathmill as well. I guess it would have been the siding for offloading gear and putting things on as well. Yeah. But the Keith Dufton line is still there, and it's still a tourist line, as you'll know. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's been running the last 2 years since COVID, but I would imagine, I'm hoping it starts up again, because I want to go on it. But yeah, no, it's just built. Strathmill's silent just now, but it's just built for a visitor centre. It's just wonderful, just right on the railway with the siding there, and I was standing on a rail track taking a photograph of the distillery sign with the pagodas behind it and the chimney and stuff, and I was like,
nice.
But just a couple of maintenance guys going about. It's like we should be kind of touting this loud and throughout Scotland and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's dead interesting about that, because I've got a pal, right, and I do a lot of hiking with him, and he's very into trains, and we walked the Great Glens Way, which picks up where the West Highland Way ends and takes you through to Inverness. And he was telling me that there was a race to build a train line to Inverness, and that was the path that we were walking on, was the side that lost. They were supposed to go up the Great Glen, and then I think it went around the other way, and it serviced quite a lot of the whiskey trade, I think. But
a lot of them did. I mean, a lot of distilleries were actually built for Knockdhu, up at Knock, just kind of between Huntly and I suppose Buckie, or Portsoy, was on the railway line as well. So there was a train went past there. And a lot of distilleries were built where there was a railway, but obviously all these railways have been taken away now. And up this way, there was the railway right along the Murray coast as well. You see all the bridges are still there. There's some of the paths still there. You've got the big viaduct at Cullen, right up in the Murray coast. There's huge viaducts up there.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
What a place Cullen is. Oh my God. Someone should build a distillery on Cullen Beach. Honestly. It's
the viaduct and everything going over it.
That's why we love Glenglassaugh so much. Glenglassaugh is one of our absolute favourites. And the Ugly Duckling Distillery, I've always said if I win the Euro Millions, I'm going to put in a very aggressive bid to buy Glenglassaugh. Well over the odds. I'll pay about 500 million for it so I can have it and run it.
500 million, right? No bother.
Just whatever. Just make them sell it to me.
What kind of Euro Millions are you playing?
Just throw stupid money and run it as an completely independent distillery.
Yeah. Do you know, that was actually where that came. I think it was 7 Dutch investors all chipped in to buy Glenglassaugh, and they're the ones who got things moving again. And it was then bought out by, I can't remember the team that Billy Walker was involved in with Ben Rioch, and then that was bought out by Brian Foreman. But it all started with 7 guys who chipped in. It's really cool.
It's been closed more than it's been open.
You just said about the attempted burglary, I remember as well when it.
That's right.
There was a guy.
There was a burglary. There were copper thieves were there and they were disturbed. So they only sort of they did a fair bit of damage, but they didn't get any of the major stuff. But they reckon if they had actually cleared it out, then it would never have been rebuilt. It would never opened again. So.
No. Do you know what you're saying? If you could have any distillery, I think I'd have Glentochers. I think that's a real unsung hero.
I agree.
What a beautiful whiskey.
I love Glentochers, and it's absolutely beautiful. I pass it on a regular basis when I'm.
Do you?
Mike's laughing because we had this argument with Paul McKenna.
Paul and Gregor,
No way.
Yeah,
there you go.
Gregor hates it. Paul loves it.
Yeah,
Gregor likes it as well.
Yeah.
Tell him I'll go halfers, right?
I give Paul a sample of a bottle that I had, just because we were talking about it that night. But yeah, I totally agree. I love Glentochers. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah,
if I had a distillery, and probably Ardmore would be one that I would like to get.
Really? That's interesting.
I think it's so underrated as a single malt. What you get in a supermarket is.
It's teachers. That's the thing. It's taking it away from teachers.
That's exactly what I would do.
You'd never get it for that very reason.
500 million. I'm going to nick your 500 million for Glenglassaugh, and I'm going to buy Ardmore. But I think as an independent, as a single cask, it's phenomenal. There's so many good Ardmores out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the distillery is stunning as well. You get in it, it probably wouldn't remain as clean as it is now if I was in charge of it, but it's so well kept.
That's true, by the
way. Do you know what you were saying about the teachers and whatnot? Then I remember I told you how I got into whiskey, and I was walking the West Island Way, and blah 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 blah, and I was like, got to drink whiskey on the West Island Way, and we got to Tyndrum. I always say it wrong. And there's a wee sign there, and it says, "This is the last shop in the West Island Way for 20 miles." We were walking to Bridge of Orchy, and we're like, better get a bottle of whiskey then, mate. And but we were students. We were 19, 18, and we bought a bottle of Scottish Leader, and that's the only bottle of Scottish Leader I've ever bought. And it's brutal. But I love Deanston. It's such a nice whiskey, but I think a lot of it, at least at the time, ended up in Scottish Leader. And it was...
I mean, it's the heartbeat of a lot of these whiskies, though, isn't it? Producing for blends.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many good drams, and I've got 3 bottles sitting here: Ardmore, Macduff, and Ochroysk. Nice. Just 3 powerhouses for blends, but on their own right, probably don't get the appreciation that they deserve.
Well, so you go the sign at Strathmill. I mean, I've passed the end of the road. I went looking for it today because I had a bit of time, and I knew where Strathisla, I knew where Glen Keith was, but I'd never been to. And I thought there's a third, and there was a bit of a thing. There's a third distillery here. I'm thinking Strathmill, And when I found the entrance to it, the sign is massive. I'm thinking, why have I never seen
Why
this?
have
It's
you never
really
seen it?
86.
It's just after the bridge,
It's-
isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just off the bridge and on the left.
Well,
And then there's a
the
long
sign,
road
the
in.
sign, the sign itself is over the bridge, and then typically a Fife Keith or Keith Fife, whatever they call it. Is it Fife Keith?
5 Keith, I think.
You know, the Fife Keith. Yeah. So the other side, but the distillery itself goes back over the river again, so it's actually technically in Keith. But the sign's in Fife Keith, and the road in is in Fife Keith, and you go past. There's a small cooperage there. I had no
Yeah.
idea there was a cooperage there.
Yeah,
I like
that's all you
cooperages.
see from the roadside, isn't it?
Yeah.
The kind of
Yeah.
cooperage. It's just
The
like an
sign's
open
massive.
tent.
The sign's massive, but the sign says G&B. So again, you know, there's no kind of recognition that this is a single malt. It's G&B is the big sign. G&B Strathmill. So yeah,
But that's what it's got the worldwide clout.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you consider? Have you ever thought of doing a blend?
Oh, absolutely.
Something just in your spare time.
No, I mean, single malt is what I'm really passionate about. I think there's a lot of room for blends on the market, and I think blended malts, particularly, you know, when you're talking earlier about the challenges indies are facing, and and with this kind of cask investment and brokering and auctions and driving the pricing up, there's a lot of really fairly priced blended malt is available to us, and that's maybe one of the avenues we're going to have to look at a bit closer. I'm trying to stick to single malt because it's what I really like.
Yeah.
But a good blended malt can hold its own against any single malt. Just about. So maybe. I told you earlier I already bought all the 7-inch singles for all my releases. Just because I wanted it. I bought Tapestry by Carole King.
Yeah.
So if ever I release a blend,
Tapestry. Yeah.
Nice. Good
that's I'm already on it. I'm way ahead.
Album.
I don't have the whiskey yet, but I just
would the packaging be? Because on the back, you're not allowed on the bottle, are you? But you could have it like a playlist of the whiskies that are in there.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So it depends. It depends what we do. And sometimes we get like we've got a Ben Rinnes, for example, and we've re-racked it because it was in a hoggy and it was nice, but it wasn't amazingly interesting. So we thought, right, we're going to have to do something with this. So we split it into a first fill octave and first fill quarter cask of Oloroso, first fill sherry. I think it was Oloroso. But when they were filled, there were still 10 litres left. So what do we do with that? And as we're doing a lot of re-rackings, we're finding that we're getting 10 litres here, 2 litres here, 5 litres here left over. Maybe we do have to make a bit of a blended malt and release that because it's good spirit. Don't know. I know that North Star did something similar recently. They put it in kind of old, almost like medicine bottles out. It was...
Okay.
I can't remember what they called it, but essentially they're very open and transparent as we aspire to be about, this was what was left over and we chucked it all into first fill and just left it, and oh God, it's really, I'm going to look it up quickly if you don't mind. Because I do like North Star as well. I've emailed them and I've spoken to them on the phone, but I've never met them in person despite them just being like 3 villages over. Ian there, so he's a nice guy as well. The whiskey industry's full of nice guys, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely, and that was. I just walked into that walking through that distillery today, as I say, the right away, and the guy who's running the kind of maintenance just now just came over to speak to me and the dog, and just got chatting away. Just fantastic. And that's the great thing about. I think one of the great things about the whiskey industry. People are willing to tell you stories. People are willing to share advice, information. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and particularly we get a lot of young guys who are trying to set up and do what Uncharted's doing, and we're delighted to help them because we were there 2 years ago. And people helped us, and we want to help the next lot as well, and that's how it all keeps going.
For sure.
My phone's not behaving, so it doesn't matter. I'll let it go. It's got periodical or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, Nice guys. And then, do you guys stock North Star?
No,
No.
we kind of it's tough deciding which indies to bring in because there are so many new ones, and and I know that a lot of them now. I'm not sure if you're in this position now where you have to kind of support the guys who have been there at the start. They're now saying no to new retailers. So you know, I know there's a lot of the guys are doing that. So we haven't really approached North Star because I know there's a lot of shops nearby who are kind of big on it. So
and that's fair enough. You know, you've got to find a niche, don't you, and stick to it and grow your relationships. But no, they're nice guys. And you know, we keep talking about Lady Glen, but I last time I had a North Star, I was in the Bon Accord in Glasgow. It's a great whiskey bar, and I was chatting to Paul because he was there, and they'd been at a tasting all night, and I'd only just arrived, and there was 2 North Stars. I said, all right, give us a couple of them. 3 because it was just met Roddy from the Good Spirits. I hadn't met him before that night. I don't know if you know him. So right, give us 3 of those new North Stars. And by the time I got back, Paul was away up the road, and I didn't realise the drams I bought was 64%, and I had to drink Paul's. It was a terrible shame. I could have done without it at 64%. I didn't realise.
I know, Jesus.
I know, rocket fuel.
I think Russell's frozen, is he?
No, it's still
No, I'm here. I was just looking at Ian's question there. That's a really good one, actually. Talking about things like blends and all that kind of stuff. Do we know? I mean, I don't know. Has any 2 indie bottlers ever done a collaboration? That's
I don't know.
A bit like a band mashup. A kind of Bananarama type, kind of Fun Boy 3 and Bananarama sort of thing.
The Highwaymen.
Highwaymen. Yeah, I don't know if that's been done. I know that there's been, like, I know there's stuff like, for example, I know there was an English distillery did a blend of a Scotch malt and an English malt, and I can't remember what they called it One, I think. But that, I don't think any indies have done a collaboration just quite like that.
Yeah.
But
well, there you go.
Maybe we should give the proceeds to Ukraine or something like that.
The travelling Wilburys or something like that. Yeah.
Travelling Wilburys. That's a good one. Yeah. What was their big song?
The End of the Line.
It's all right.
Yes.
Was that the end of the line? Was it? They did 2.
Yeah, the End of the Line and.
Oh gosh. Jeff Lynne. Yeah.
Oh, that's driving me crazy. What was that? Because there's a girl.
Dave hasn't fallen asleep in the bath. He'll tell us.
Yes, he's probably got it on his playlist.
Handle Me with Care.
I don't remember that one.
That was another. I'm sure that was a Traveling Wilbury song. Handle Me with Care. I think it was.
Fraser reckons the Delphine Thompson brothers.
Handle with Care. Yeah, Handle with Care.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And Inside Out. I remember Inside Out in the End of the Line.
That's what
that was the 2 big ones. But I mean, that was a fantastic group.
That was a ridiculous. That was a super band. Yeah.
Was Roy Orbison the singer? Have I imagined that?
Roy Orbison,
Jeff
Bob
Lynne.
Dylan, Tom Petty.
Bob
I think
Dylan's
Jeff Lynne from
well.
Jeff Lynne from Yellow. I think he was the singer, wasn't he?
Was he there? George
Jeff
Harrison
Lynne's
was there as well, wasn't he?
I mean, what a band. What a
Tom Petty. Yeah, just a who's who of
Petty.
kind of 70s, 80s.
You got to be careful with these super bands, though, because if it's not quality, it can be disappointing.
Harlem Globetrotters, Real Madrid. Yeah, you've got to get it right.
The Galacticos, God, is it?
LA Lakers. Yeah.
Right enough.
Fraser McFarlane's just popped up. He's saying the periodical was your North Star medicinal bottles, and then he thinks Adelphi and Thompson brothers have got something coming up soon.
Cool.
A collaboration.
No, good for them.
So
Thompson brothers are the ones who've come out came out of nowhere a few years ago with the cool organic gin, and they seem to have just gone strength to strength, haven't they?
Yeah. It's the same guys who have the Dornick Distillery, isn't it?
Yeah. I think so. I've not met them in person yet, but I've sold the products before. and I've tried them and really like them. So, yeah.
There's an update on our Travelling Wilburys. Roy Orbison only played on one till his untimely death. So that was the end of the line he was on. I'm pretty sure his voice is on there.
Right.
So he only played one. That's a shame.
That's a shame. And it was called End of the Line.
The end of the line.
Well, that's a bit
That's
prophetic,
fitting, isn't it?
absolutely. Absolutely. Ever so slightly prophetic. Yeah.
Cool. So so please enjoy Killer Queen when it arrives.
I'm sure we will.
And,
thanks very much for sticking around. I know we kind of said we were going to be tight on an hour, but
we've gone well over, but we always do, and it's never enough time.
Yeah,
never enough time, Jack. So
well, I live in
I'm
Fintry.
not
It's
sure
not exactly a bustling nightlife.
I'm not sure.
Don't know where to be.
Yeah,
it's been for that, and it's been great actually just to have an excuse to go back through some of the drams that you've produced, because as I say, with that rumours and thing, once it's sold out, we kind of move on to the next one and stuff, and it's great to go back and just pour them and have a dram of it again. That Manic Moor is just, but I'm pretty confident that's the Manic Moor.
Yeah.
the label's been
alive and kicking.
Yeah,
but Dad saw Simple Minds in Glasgow last week. Yeah, playing Glasgow last week. So,
first time I saw Simple Minds was the New Gold Dream tour in 1984. Were you guys even born? Were you guys even born then?
I was one.
New Gold Dream tour in 1984 at the Aberdeen Capitol.
No, I was talking to a boy. He said I was chatting to him and just about alive and kicking. He's like, yeah, I saw Simple Minds in Glasgow QMU. I was like, where the hell were these bands when I was at Glasgow QMU? Because nothing like no. So
all the big bands used to play the unis back in the day. Yeah, fantastic.
Where's Paul?
Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Formerly
I'm definitely showing my age, Paul. I can't help it. I'm old. That's the way it is. I mean, there's no getting away from it.
Yeah.
Is it brave indie brands, Paul? You have to remind me who you're with now. Brave something. He's down in Glasgow now. He's left the Spade Distillers. He's now.
Yeah, he was in. Paul was in with the woodwork there.
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll do amazing in whatever he's doing next. But,
he would have loved to chat tonight because he's a music head.
Absolutely. We'll just need to do part 2.
I did have to ask Brave New Spirits. There we go. Yeah. Brave New Spirits is his new company, Glasgow based. And when he sent me the kind of that he announced on his LinkedIn, I did have to check with you, Paul, that you'd give me the right name, because the first line on the website is we're a team of young, new, independent whiskey guys. And I was like, that word young, I was thinking, Paul.
Paul, you can put his prices up.
They'll just have to delete that word, I think, if they're welcoming Paul to the team. You know I'm only joking, buddy. Well, we'll have to get you back on, Paul, just while you're watching, back on in your new guys on for a Blether, because we had you on as in your previous role.
As Spee, yeah.
Sorry, Jack. We're just fishing you.
No, not at all. I really like Paul, and I've come across him a lot of time, many times in my time in the industry, and he's a lovely guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back
good at his job. Really good at what he does as well.
Dave Fackers is just saying thanks. Very interesting night. Never looked at any of these bottles, but I will now. And Jack seems a great guy, so you've got David and Dave on your side. You're definitely in
all right. I'm winning. It's all been worthwhile.
Hopefully, Dave's wife's not watching, but he put a comment on earlier on in the group. He just bought a bottle of the Brown Eyed Girl.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, good on you, mate. Thank you very much, and thanks for supporting the guys as well.
If you come out to collect it, Dave, we'll maybe have a wee drama of the Killer Queen for you as well to taste.
Try that. First fill Madeira octaves for 11 months. 11 months in the first fill octave.
Fantastic.
It smells like marmalade. It's really cool.
Can't wait to taste that.
Yeah.
When are you next in, Russell? When are you back?
Back on Tuesday. Tuesday, and then
I'll be gone by then.
I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I'm in quite a lot the next couple of weeks with Janice on holiday. So I think it's shop and tastings galore. I think in the next couple of weeks. So
busy
I'm
couple
just
of
going to
weeks.
rest up. I'm going to rest up this weekend because I think that's it for a couple of weeks. So, yeah, absolutely.
If you're not busy, there's a problem. You know.
Absolutely,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get caned with all the guys on the way back down from Spirit Speyside, hopefully,
Yeah,
Well, let's hope
hopefully.
so.
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
your shelves.
But we'll have to do a Speyside themed Blether on the weekend of the.
Well, I think we need to make a move to see if we can get Inverurie annexed by Speyside. We can get a little kind of.
You
Well,
can
we can
gerrymander the border. That'd be good, aye.
I mean,
Alright, gents.
Glenronna kind of do it at the same time. Sometimes they're a Speyside whiskey this time of year. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, thanks, Jack.
Yes,
absolute
brilliant,
pleasure.
Jack.
It's been
Thank
brilliant.
you very, very much.
And,
I'm
we'll be in
probably
touch
going to miss
and-
you if you're coming down that Monday. I'm probably going to miss you because I don't think I'm there that day, but I'm sure I'll catch up with you sometime soon. Well, hopefully, anyway, for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
And,
Good night,
thank
gents.
you to everyone for watching.
Good.
Hopefully you've enjoyed tonight. I think going by the comments, it's been really enjoyable, really open and honest, which we
Got an
really
important point to mention about next week.
Yes.
So next week we've got Michael Hendry from Loch Lomond, who is an absolute amazing font of knowledge on the most amazing versatility of different ways of distilling within one different industry. So Michael's going to join us next week, but he's got children to put to bed, so he's going to come on at 8 o'clock. So next week, 8 o'clock, guys, put it in your diary to remember to leave it an hour later. So we'll be starting at 8 o'clock next week. And we'll put that up on the Facebook and what have you as well, just to remind you. But the guys that are on tonight, 8 o'clock next week, Michael Hendry, join in. If you've got a Loch Lomond at home, pour one. If you've got the, I'll take the high road, get that poured. And we'll have a very interesting week again next week.
I actually think that is the only Loch Lomond I've got in the shop in the house.
I've still got the 100%. I've still got the 100% single grain, which is malted barley, but
Nice.
in the column still, so they can't call it malt. Yeah. And it's fantastic. 27 quid a bottle, nuts. Absolutely nuts.
All because they can't call it malt.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
And we've got another Loch Lomond coming soon that they'll have to absolutely
Yeah.
him try it, see what
We'll
he
have
makes
to
of
endorse
it. He
that,
probably
yeah.
made it, you know.
Love Loch Lomond. Love it.
Yeah, we'll have to ask it, see how long he's been there, and see if it was his hand that ran the still. Right. Well, thank you again, Jack.
cheers,
I'm
Jack.
sure we'll be in touch very shortly.
Sounds good.
And
Right.
guys, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week, if not before. Paul, sorry you just caught us at the end, but we'll be in touch with your new venture, and all the best for that. Cheers, guys.
Cheers,
Good night.
guys.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
guys. Yeah. Cheers, Jack.